you're not actually hungry. Maybe you're just unsatisfied.
Mm-hmm.
So you're eating when your body's not triggering hunger, which means if my body doesn't trigger hunger, it's also not going to trigger fullness. And then we overeat it. Whereas we could have just asked, what's going to satisfy me in this moment? I would like a piece of pizza.
Right.
And I'll have the salad. Maybe I'll have 2 slices of pizza and a salad, right? Are you someone who is constantly thinking about your next meal, the meal you just ate, if that food was good or bad, if it kept you on track, off track, all of the things? If so, welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, we are going to discuss food noise and the loop of food noise and why you can't stop thinking about food. So if you're ready, listen up and lean in as we elevate your mind. Welcome, everyone. For those of you new to this podcast, we're going to banter about our lives, babies, puppies, and reality TV or whatever we're watching. So if that's not your thing, you can look at the show notes below to fast forward when we start the conversation on food noise. Okay. I watched a documentary this weekend. No, it wasn't a documentary. It's this show called Night Line or something like that. It's on Hulu.
Oh, yeah. That was an actual TV show.
Yeah. So they have like different episodes. And they were talking about Tracy Anderson. She's like the stars.
BT.
Yeah. She's like everyone uses her as their personal trainer.
Oh.
And she's been around for a really long time. She's got DVDs. And I'm just looking at her. She calls it the Tracy Anderson method. And it's this weird, very strange type of training. It's like a mixture of dance with hand weights with, I don't know. And honestly, when I'm looking at her choreography, it's so odd. I was like, what the fuck? And Gwyneth Paltrow was like, oh my God, she changed my body. And I'm like, no, Gwyneth, you picked up some fucking weights and bounced around. Like, she didn't do anything. And then she's like, well, everything's custom to each person. I'm like, they're doing the same workout. Maybe their nutrition is custom, which obviously should be. But like some of this, I'm like, go girl. You
get your millions.
This like 25 years ago. Yeah. So that's probably why. And she probably learned like, oh, if we add some resistance, people's bodies will change.
Well, okay.
But I'm looking at it now and I'm like, this is hilarious.
And so I'm chat GPTing Avi. And then, but I'm going to just give you some names. Gwyneth Paltrow, Victoria Beckham. I don't know who Tracy Ellis Ross is though.
She was on Blackish. She's Diana Ross's daughter. Big curly hair. Yeah. Anyway.
But I feel like Gwyneth Paltrow and Victoria Beckham have like similar body structures.
Yeah. Well, she did J-Lo too. She was Madonna's trainer.
Oh,
yeah.
Similar body structures.
Well, and that's the thing. I think she says, she says, it doesn't matter if your family has wide hips or your family all have fat bellies for 16 generations. You're going to get long, lean muscles.
Not a thing.
Yes. I'm like, you're a fucking liar. Interestingly, she doesn't have like an athletic body, but she also doesn't have like a dancer body. So I don't know. But
oh my God. So she has weights that are for sale and they're sold out. Like what?
Oh yeah. She does leg weights.
And her weights are described as strong and delicate, graceful and resilient, like nature. Be both. Like what? Shut the fuck up.
It was the most annoying thing to watch. I'm like,
deepen your muscle health without overload or strain. Like that's correct. You should
be overloading your muscle, but not straining your muscle. The overload is the part of the process. So she's just it's like the new Pilates girly.
Yeah.
Like this whole idea around Pilates and it's your muscle structure
does not get leaner or longer.
Longer. It stays the same.
Yeah.
For some people, they have longer muscles that like, so if you have your femurs longer. I know. And it's silent in the room. So she's not giving any instruction and it's hot.
So, okay.
Yeah. So then they're like, oh, look, the sweat. What?
Just her. Oh, wait. Her coaching price is not terrible. 1 month of virtual coaching, $500.
Well, $900 in person.
500. Yeah. Is 900 in person?
Yeah.
Jesus.
But I was just like, this is so dumb. And women all over fall for this shit.
Eat it up.
They eat it up.
They eat it up.
It's like, no, just grab some weights, do the training program, 3 full body workouts, focus on progressive overload. If you want to throw in some hot yoga, that would be great. But I just can't. I just can't. Also, other irk. I was listening to Mel Robbins' podcast on the GLP-1s.
Mm-hmm.
Did you listen to it too?
Mm-mm. I'm on a podcast like pivot right now.
I at first saw a clip from it. I was like, oh yeah, I agree with this. But then I listened to the podcast. I'm like, this woman is obviously in bed with Big Pharma.
Really?
She said obesity is not your fault. Obesity has so it has a genetic component, sure, yes. A hormonal component, sure. A lifestyle component, I forgot the other ones. But then the the example she gave was like, well, what Ozempic does is it allows people to ultimately eat less.
Who's this lady that's talking?
She's a doctor from, I don't know. Eat less, and they don't have the food noise, and their leptin is higher. And I'm like, so they're in a calorie deficit, and they're allowing they're eating when their bodies are hungry and finishing when their bodies are full. And obviously the Ozempic, yes, will it help them minimize the noise in their head? Yes. You know, and then she also said, and it also helps to reduce the like hedonistic part of your eating. But everything she was saying, she was trying to make it sound like it's this clinical thing. But I'm like, you can literally do that with lifestyle. It just takes longer. Like attuned eating, coming back to your body, listening to your body cues. As I said last week, that concept of, and we're going to talk about this today, if you only stop eating, you will only stop eating when you're full. If you only start eating when you're actually hungry, right? That concept. And the food noise part, which we're going to talk about today, has a whole, there is research on where food noise comes from, but everything she was saying, I'm like, genetics. Well, there's been research that shows that the weight of the parents preconception affects the weight of the child.
Correct.
Yeah. Why?
Because there's so much insulin that the baby's pancreas cannot handle it. So they have normal levels, normal adult levels within their body.
Right. Well, then also,
and then that goes into overdrive, and then it dips when they're born, and that sends them into diabetic.
Okay. Well, is that when you get childhood diabetes?
No, because that's type 1 diabetes.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to debunk that, but
I said that wrong. Yeah. I said that wrong, audience. Sorry.
Do you need to say it again?
The childhood diabetes, like, no, that's not necessarily when they get it, but it's like an indication that you're going to.
Gotcha.
Like if your parent has diabetes, like type 2 diabetes, you are more likely to get it just because of their insulin levels within their body when you are developing in their stomach.
So there's some truth to what she said then. I was thinking, well, yeah, if your parents are eating like garbage.
Well, then that's where environment comes in.
Right.
Of like your parents are showing you the behaviors of how you eat. Therefore, you eat how your parents eat.
Right. But also, she's saying, well, there's nothing you can do. You have to take the GLP-1.
That's not true.
No.
Yeah.
You can change the behavior.
Correct.
Now, I'm not saying, again, like everyone we talked to, yes, you can use the GLP-1s, but she just sounded so in bed with Big Pharma. It was disgusting. And Mel Robbins, the way that she podcasts
on the comments on Spotify, they're like, this is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
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 Oh, God.
I'm like, because we wanted to make obesity a disease so that Big Pharma could prescribe medication for it.
Mm-hmm.
And for her, though, she did say you need to have an adequate protein intake. You need to be strength training twice a week. She did have that portion of it, but it wasn't until the end. And
like, oh, by the way.
Yeah. And I'm like, ugh, why did you take so long to get there? You know? And she said the only person GLP-1s are not recommended for are people with medullary thyroid cancer, like history, or pregnant. But then she also said, don't microdose it. Don't use compounds because they're not FDA regulated. It was crazy. So again, pushing buy it from Big Pharma, buy it from Big Pharma. So just one thing I want to say to you guys, just be aware of who you're listening to. Big Pharma doesn't sponsor us. If they did, we wouldn't have a studio at my house.
We probably wouldn't be working.
Yeah.
I would take the paycheck and.
Would you take it?
No.
So if Big Pharma called us and was like, listen, girls, can you just shut the fuck up and just take this? How much money would you shut the fuck up for? Great question. I know.
Do you have a number?
No. Do you think I'd ever be able to shut the fuck up?
No, that's what I was thinking. Because it's like,
they'd have to literally sew my lips together and then I'd learn sign language.
Yeah.
I don't think I could
I don't
do
know.
it.
I don't think I could, because then I feel like that would be such a almost like betrayal to what I feel like that would be like, Amanda did this, but like she took the money,
and
people would then be like, oh, I don't blame her. And it'd be like, well, yeah, but like, that's kind of fucked up, is like, I'm preaching, hey, it's your lifestyle. Hey, it's your mindset. Hey, you can solve that. But I'm just gonna, like, it's the same thing of like, I'm going to take a GLP-1 instead of working on all that. I'm going to take the payout instead of like working hard to like get this message out.
Right. Yeah. I was listening.
Michael would probably, he would probably disagree to be like, you take that fucking money.
I think Mark would not. He'd be like, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. I was listening. I've been doing online church.
Yeah.
And they were talking about like Palm
Sunday?
No. Yeah. Palm Sunday, last Sunday. And how like, Jesus goes into this, and I don't know the whole story yet because I'm still learning, but he goes into the city where he ultimately is crucified, and he goes on a donkey because all they wanted was like a king to come in and like change their circumstances rather than changing like their spiritual like brain. And I was like, duh. Like, oh, we've been talking about this shit for since the turn of time.
Yeah, since Jesus.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, it's been so interesting to like be like, oh, that's it. Like, oh, that was in the Bible. Like, okay, good. So we're not just making shit up. Like, this is for real. Anyway, let's talk about food noise. Okay. For real. So we've had a conversation about this before, but I wanted to introduce some new information that I have recently learned through my own education. But let's talk about what food noise is. I kind of introed it. It's when you are constantly thinking about food. I was watching it was a reel or a TikTok where it has someone else's reel and then the other person like talks over it like a stitch.
My talks are hitting lately.
Yeah. So, oh, good.
Yeah.
So the girl who was speaking was one of the Olympians on the U.S. team. And she goes, wait, I just learned that people on Ozempic like don't think about food. She goes, I think about food all the time. Like I'm constantly thinking about food, what I want to eat, this and that. But so food noise is meal obsession, food obsession. It is, as she said, constantly thinking about food. You wake up, what's my first meal going to be? But also you probably have some behaviors that keep you from having that meal. So you might have coffee, right? Instead of the meal. And then you have that protein shake that you grab on the way out.
Or today, no breakfast because you're making up for Easter.
Yep.
Brunch, lunch, dinner.
And then you're just thinking about your next meal because, you had these really unsatisfying things, coffee and a protein shake, and you're obsessing over it. You walk by the muffins that someone brought in. You're just like, oh, don't have it. Those are bad. Like you've been so good this morning. Just wait for your chicken. Yeah. Chicken salad that you're going to have at lunch, and the chicken salad, you eat it and you're just like, fuck, I'm still hungry. Okay. Well, I'm just going to have a little bit of the muffin and maybe you go a little bit overboard on the muffin. Oh my God, now I have to figure out how to work off the muffin and da-da-da. It's just constant all day long. And it's not just about when I'm going to eat. It's how I eat, what I eat, if that food was good or bad, if that food was in my calories, not in my calories, how am I going to make it fit in my macros? Listen, I've been that person where it was obsession over, okay, how is, I'm on track with my macros. I've, hit my meals for the day, thinking about what I'm going to eat again. God, I remember being in those heavy restrictions and it was just like, oh my God, when's my next meal? When's my next meal? And it can go for someone who has a binge eating issue. Food noise is true for people who are rigid in their nutrition, and you're just thinking about, oh my gosh, I remember saying to myself, like, that food will be there later. That food will be there later when I want something, but I was in a calorie deficit. And I was really, really rigid in
trying
the
to
fact
think what
that
I was saying to myself.
Yeah.
You don't. I think I would tell myself like, you don't actually want it. You don't actually want it. Like
I would say it's only 8 weeks. You can do anything for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I
don't even.
So bad. So food is always on your mind, right?
Yeah.
Constantly wondering what you should eat, if you should be eating the food, etc. And so it's that constant thought, the planning, the restricting, the craving, the criticizing. So food noise, as you can tell, is a mental struggle, a mindset struggle. And what we're going to talk about is not just where the loop begins, but I truly believe that, yes, what we're going to talk about and how to manage it is a longer solution than going on something like a GLP-1, but it's the forever
inevitable
solution. Right. It's the solution that it has to happen if you want to have actual control. You can have medication control or you can have mindset control. It's your choice.
Well, I would say if you are going to have the medication control, you'll have to learn the mindset control eventually, unless you plan on staying on the medication forever. And even then, that has trade-offs.
Yeah. So I want to talk about who food noise is usually louder in. So we've already kind of touched on that. But one thing I didn't say is kind of where the loop begins. So there was World War II studies in the Minnesota study where scientists restricted the calorie intake of individuals. And I'm going to use the World War II study because it's top of mind. So World War II study, they restricted the intake of our combat veterans. And I don't remember if they were frontline or if they were just working, but they were still moving quite a bit. And they studied these men for, I believe it was 6 months.
Okay.
And they not only focused on their weights, but also mainly their behaviors. In the study, they realized that the more restricted the individuals became, the more obsessed they became about food, the more behaviors around hoarding happened and binging happened. And very, very important part of this is after they were able to refeed or eat, it took some of their bodies upwards of a year's time to have their ghrelin and their leptin come back to a normal place. So ghrelin, remember guys, is the hormone that's released when we're hungry. Leptin is the hormone that is released when we're full. So they would eat massive amounts of foods after going into this very severe calorie restriction. And their brains would say, I'm still not full.
Yeah.
I'm still not full. I'm still not full.
Continued obsession with food, emotional instability, even after weeks of refeeding.
Yes. And does it say there was a few that it took like months to years to get to?
Not there yet. I'm scrolling through.
So I think that these studies are so important, especially around the conversation with food noise, because food noise, I think people just assume that it's a biological struggle. What are you oohing and awing?
So this one, it says participants often binge uncontrollably, consuming 6,000 to 10,000 calories a day, and it would experience guilt and confusion about their behavior, showing how starvation distorted their relationship with food.
Yes. Hey, YouTube, today's giveaway, yes, we're starting this, is the Self-Mastery Method, which is a self-led program on my mindset method. All you have to do is comment below on this podcast, and we are going to randomly select the winner, and you will get access to that program for 4 months and be able to work through the entire method and join along with all that we do. Now, back to the show. Ding, ding, ding. Weird. World War II, y'all.
Affected them for the rest of their lives.
So today you've had a history lesson of Jesus and World War II and how the message we've been telling you dates back to all of these times, these very important times of history. Okay. So I think that's so important because, again, people assume that's and maybe you can help me with my wording.
Okay.
Biological issue. Like, this is just what happened to me. Like, I think about,
in my perception, they perceive something is wrong with their wiring, and therefore they need a solution to that instead of looking at the behaviors that
would
cause the distorted wiring.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what I wanted to hear or say.
Good.
So for the people listening, we have to realize that food is fuel. And food helps our bodies to stay alive. And when we're not feeding our body correctly, especially as women, it's going to see that as a stress state. So like restricting your food is seen as a stress state. Even if you go far into some of the most recent research on women, even just that fasting a little bit longer in the morning, because all fasting research upwards of 2 years ago was on men, and they can fast longer because they don't produce life. Whereas women, it's much more stressful. Can you touch on that part of like the way that our bodies as reproductive peeps is different than men?
Because we need fuel to make a baby,
right?
Meaning, yeah. So it's funny that you say that, because on my TikTok this week, I had posted like, hey, eat breakfast today. And a girl commented, I'm pregnant and I almost passed out because I was essentially restricting myself. And now I'm eating
good
because I don't feel good. And I'm like, good, please. Yeah. So what people fail to understand is that, like you've said before, is we have the same hormones as men, but our hormones are different than men, like based on what they are inside of our bodies. And they fluctuate. And what it means is we need fuel, and women tend to undereat in general. But then, as we talk about with GQ, is then we essentially binge eat at the end of the day, or we backload our calories. And so when you do that, you're telling your body, I'm not hungry, but your body's saying, well, you are. Stop sending that signal. And that's when women go, oh, I'm just not hungry in the morning. It's like, well, because you've been telling yourself so long that you're not. But when you do that,
it's become like hunger instead of insulin resistance, you're hunger resistant.
Yeah, seriously. And so it's very important though, like that you get enough in the beginning of your day, because it's going to balance it out. Because what I don't think a lot of people understand, I like to equate this to like our consult calls when we're having someone come in who doesn't have the education. Okay, so they are eating 12 to 1,500 calories a day on average, right? And you're like, okay, bing, 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 too low. But then they go, oh, I fast. And you go, so you're eating between 600 to 800 calories for the 2 meals that you have. Oh, well, no, I don't do that.
Right.
And it's like, okay, then we're missing a piece of the puzzle. Right. And so when you're pushing off, again, that kind of going in that intermittent fasting or that delayed feeding window, or there's time restricted feeding is another term. Now there's a difference between time restricted feeding of like, oh, I don't eat past 7 because I go to bed at 8:30. Right. And then there's a difference between, oh no, I don't eat past 7, but I don't go to bed till 12. I don't really wake up, and I wake up at 6, and then I don't eat again until 12. And so that's going to mess with hormones, because what creates hormones is nutrition. Nutrition comes from calories. Calories come from food.
Right.
And so we need calories to have hormone productivity.
Right. Well, and for women, again, the body wants to ensure that it's a safe environment to reproduce.
Yeah.
When we don't eat, it's not safe. So we can have these like huge drops in blood sugar, right? Which is going to increase our ghrelin to say, hey, we're fucking hungry. Feed us, right? And you push past it. So then you're basically hijacking the system to say, your system of hormones.
Yeah.
And saying, no, you're not hungry. Let me tell you what you are.
Well, and then on top of that, when I do decide to eat, I'm looking for, my body this is why people are like, I just crave like the highly processed food or the sugars, is because your body's going, I need something quick. I don't have time to digest because I'm going to die. It's in that like stress response. Right. So now I'm going into that binging mindset. So before we were in the restriction mindset, now we're in the binging mindset. Then all or nothing thinking, right? So I can't have anything. Okay, well, I'm going to have it all because I need to, right? And I have this 6-hour window that I can get it in.
Or your body's in that, I'm not going to produce this leptin and tell your ass that you're full because you haven't been feeding me all day.
And so it's going to keep going and going and going. Yeah.
So when we are in that constant restriction binge, all or nothing, your body adapts.
Yeah.
Your body adapts to it. And that focus of food, especially in restriction, is your body's physiological adaptation to not feeding it. Right. And then because you've put so much shame and emphasis on foods, certain foods being bad, then when the physiological adaptation says, fuck this, not only do I need to eat, I'm going to make you crave something that your body doesn't know that you've decided it's a bad food.
Right.
I'm going to make you crave that fast acting carbohydrate, or maybe you said highly processed food. You're going to eat it. You're going to eat a lot of it. Again, your body doesn't know that you have the shame around it. Only your mind does, but you don't put those two together.
Right.
So then you have all this shame around it. So
Which
what do we do?
That cycle of
right.
I'm eating this, I'm bad.
Right. And then however long I'm in the all, right? So just the binge, eventually the shame kicks in. And what do? We restrict even more. And that obsession gets stronger and stronger. The disconnection from the body becomes further and further, right? From the self, from the body. And this is where food noise happens.
Right. Well, and I think too, like going into the environment of social media, it's pros and cons, right? Because it's brought awareness that this is a thing. I don't think it's done a good job of saying why this is a thing, but I feel like now it's being so shoved of like, you've just got food noise, everybody. And it's like, well, yes, but why?
Yeah.
And I think people
like, well, no, I just have food noise.
Well, and they go, oh, that's what I'm experiencing. That's exactly it. And it's like, yes, that's exactly it. But what's exactly it is you don't eat.
Yes.
Or you do eat and then you label it as bad. And then your body has a response to that. And then we start that cycle.
Right.
Like,
it's like we didn't think that the diet culture restriction was going to fuck us up.
Yeah. Multiple times over and over.
Over and over again. Like that wasn't something that was going to eventually adapt into something else. And that's what food noise is. We've just put a name on it.
Yeah.
It's not like this is the first time. I'm sure, when Jesus, when he was on like,
when he had his last supper, we might consider that a binge.
Correct. Because he was like, listen, I'm going to be in this tomb
I'm
3 days. Yeah. Anyway, God, they're going to be like, are you one of these podcasts that are switching to spiritual?
No. Let the audience to know I am not religious by any means, so we will not make that pivot.
Yes, but it's just funny. I was like, that's hilarious. This is literally the same conversation we have every. Anyway, so an example is like, oh, I just have food noise, right? It's like, oh, my car just leaks oil, right? It's just leaking oil. Every time I pull out, there's the oil, but that's just what it does. It's just leaking oil, and I don't get it fixed. Right. Well, why is it leaking oil? Where's the leak coming from? Like, is there a bigger issue? Just like, oh, my car leaks oil.
There's a lot of reasons your car can leak oil.
Right. Exactly. And there's a lot of, not really a lot of reasons, but there are a lot of
opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah. Origins to those reasons. Right. But I'm telling our audience that if you can come to a place of reconnecting to your body, feeding yourself enough, and the things we'll talk about, you can eliminate food noise without, sticking yourself with a pin every once a week.
Which I don't think, I hate that. I hate to hate on it, but it's like, I really just don't think people understand what that means, right? Like, I don't think they understand what it means to just choose a GLP-1 or, a peptide or whatever.
So I have an example for this. So I'm on medication for ADHD, right? And some people might be like, well, that's an easy way out of like thinking, stopping and thinking, stopping and going back to the task, which my entire life I did that. I knew from an early age I needed to stop, go back to whatever it was I was doing, because I would go and start new tasks. It wasn't until I became an entrepreneur and my list of tasks were so high that not only was I already exhausted from the tasks that I had, but also the constant stopping and going back. That is exhausting mentally. I was crying with my therapist, right? My brain, and I know why, I can't change that I had significant trauma from birth.
Yeah.
Right? I was a breech cesarean. Okay. So let's just.
Did they have her labor too? Did they know you were breech?
Idea.
Oh, okay. Yes. Never mind.
And my mom has
trauma.
mad trauma.
Yeah.
Haven't learned.
If you don't know about Christina's mom.
Yes. So my dopamine receptors are not, they're abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
And I am on medication for that. The interesting thing about food noise is the only time we see neurochemical imbalance is during a calorie restriction, at least in the current literature.
Well, and it's interesting. And I'm glad that you shared that you're on medication for ADHD so I'm on medication for anxiety. Right. Mm-hmm. And from my experience is I had been on medication on and off throughout my adult life in general. And then I was off it during a certain time and I started with a new doctor and I was just kind of talking to her about it. And she knows me in a professional sense, but this was now my personal sense. Right. And she's like, it sounds like you're just really struggling. Mm-hmm. And she's like, and you're doing all the things that you can ask for. And I'm equating this to the person that's listening of, okay, I just have food noise. Right. But okay, I just have anxiety. And you hear people say that like, oh, I just have anxiety, and it's like, okay, but are you trying to help it, like manage it? Like, are you getting support for it? So I have been to therapy. I had been eating well. I had really good sleep hygiene and sleep routine. I had, exercise at this point was not what it was. It was very like balanced, right? Mm-hmm. There wasn't much else I could do. And she's like, have you considered going back on meds? And I was like, God, I really don't want to. But it was kind of at the point of like, if this lady's recognizing it and I'm trying to suppress it, right? I'm trying to suppress that noise of the anxiety and everything coming up. And she's saying, here's some help. And it was like, I can try it. So I took the help and it's changed how I've been throughout my, these last whatever amount of years that I've been on it now. And it's important that I think we say, hey, we are both on medication for worse things that we have struggled with, but we also don't go, I just struggle with that.
Right. I have the Motion app and I literally will put any task that comes in my mind in there just so I have that checklist in front of me. Like, and in the Motion app, it allows me to say the, how high or low the importance is of the task. So it's been huge for me to have that app because it'll kind of move the tasks for me based on whatever flag
needs to get done.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's so important to hear is that it's not just a thing like, oh, I have this, so then that.
Right.
What we're telling you today is the food noise was something developed in
marketing.
Thank you. Marketing, but also
boardrooms.
But interest. Okay, here's the point. Marketing from previous marketing, diet culture marketing, restrictive diets, slim fast, keto, intermittent fasting, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, don't eat, get thin, thin,
black to the gym, funeral,
all of it. We yo, right? Because none of that works. And then marketing again, well, you have food noise now. It wasn't that you couldn't lose weight. You just have food noise now when actually the thing that caused you to have the food noise was
the diets that they gave you. Yeah. Like I said, they have an annual convention every year to decide what they're going to focus on.
Yeah. So what do we do?
Yeah.
Right. What do we do when we have food noise? Honestly, guys, if you would have asked me this 6 months ago, I would probably had a different recommendation. Not a hugely different recommendation, but I truly believe now in my new continuing ed. I wasn't in the I'm still not an intuitive eating camper, but I understand the importance of connecting to your body, especially if you've been yo-yo dieting your entire life.
Would you say intuitive eating is just another form of saying you have to connect to your body?
Yes, but they shit on people if they want to lose weight.
Yeah, I know.
And I
don't appreciate that.
Yeah. So it's like that health at every size. Yeah. Yes, there's a health at every size, but also I've seen people use that to continue unhealthy behaviors. So anyway, I would say that we need to begin to start eating when we're truly hungry so that we could stop eating when we're truly full and understand what that feels like. The attuned part of it is so important because it's going to help us eat when we're hungry. Of course, it's going to help us eat enough. One very important thing is it's going to help us choose foods that will satisfy us. And did we talk about this where you go to a pizza party, but you only have the salad?
No.
Okay.
I don't know.
I would talk to someone about this where you'll go to a pizza party or they have pizza luncheon at your work, but you're being good. So you only eat the salad, right?
Ooh.
And you want the pizza.
Right.
That's what would be satisfying to you in that moment. And then what happens later, you see the cold pizza in the office kitchen.
Yeah. And 3 hours later at 3 p.m.
You eat 3 of them. And you're not actually hungry. Maybe you're just unsatisfied. So you're eating when your body's not triggering hunger, which means if my body doesn't trigger hunger, it's also not going to trigger fullness. And then we overeat it. Whereas we could have just asked, what's going to satisfy me in this moment? I would like a piece of pizza.
Right.
And I'll have the salad. Maybe I'll have 2 slices of pizza and the salad. Right. And that's going to satisfy me. Maybe only eat 1.5 because I'm listening to my body. And every time we eat when we're hungry, we're saying, okay, I hear you. I'm going to feed you. And for a lot of people, they're going to think, well, if I do that, I'm just going to eat all pizza all day long. No, you're not. This is why people say on GLP-1s, they actually eat what their body needs. Why? Because they're eating when they're fucking hungry.
And they have to eat.
Correct. Yes.
Because that's part of it. It's like, okay, if you're going to do this, you have to make sure you're eating enough.
Right.
Like your upper limit of your cut.
I know in their brain, they're thinking like, oh, well, I'm losing weight, so this is okay. Right. But really it's that, freedom of listening to your body. Like they take the noise away, but really at the end of the day, they're attuning to their body's needs.
Yeah.
And you'll hear them say like, some of them are just eating crap, but if they're really listening to their body's needs, they are getting the fiber, the protein, the nutrients. And so I would say start to eat in a way, listen when you're hungry. Do it for 3 weeks. Do it for 3 weeks. Listen, like this. I no longer workout fasted. I wake up hungry. And I've been making overnight oats with a scoop of protein and some of the Fairlife milk. And it's 200 calories. I eat that before I work out now. And it's wonderful. Nothing's changed. Like I'm not gaining weight, I actually feel really great in my body. And then I have the coffee after that too. But eating when you're hungry, allowing the body it might have to take some time to catch up when you're full because we've been yo-yo dieting. Have some grace. Then again, ask myself, what's going to satisfy me in this moment, right? Do I want something crunchy? Do I want something salty? Do I want something hot? Do I want something cold? Do I want something sweet? Do I want something tart? What is it that I want? Now, you're not always going to have access to that, but you can figure it out.
Well, I think it's important that you're commenting, you're not using things and labeling them as good and bad, right? You're using things as like their texture, their color, their flavor profile, not like, ooh, do I want something bad today?
Right.
Because you'll hear that. And it's like, what is bad about having the Oreo?
Right.
Well, it's not healthy. Okay. What is not healthy about it? Your mindset of how you eat it is not healthy.
Yes.
But if you're truly enjoying the Oreo, like and this is one thing that I think a lot of people, and I use this with my clients a lot that just tend to gravitate towards me, is they're so fearful of letting go of that like tight threshold they think they have on good food, that when we start working on giving them a bit more freedom and what that looks like, they're fearful that they are just going to have like the 3 pieces of pizza instead of the 2 in the salad. And I'm like, but that's not you. Like that's a fear that you have that isn't even realistic because that's not something you value in yourself.
Right.
Or like taking the week off of a workout. If you haven't ever taken a week off of a workout, they're so fearful. Like, I'm just going to lose my motivation. I'm going to lose my strength gains. I'm going to do all this. And it's like, but that's not you saying that. Like, that's just a fear that you have. You're letting the fear dictate and, confirm your actions.
Well, it's the part, if we're going into like IFS theory, it's the part of you that has
IFS theory,
internal family systems, which is something we've incorporated into our
program.
That is the part of you that says you have to work out and eat this way to be seen as good. Right.
And check.
Right. And so if you can tell that part, well, actually, I can eat in the way my body needs, work out in the way my body feels like moving that day. And I shouldn't say work out, move in the way my body feels that day, then you no longer need to be here to protect me, because that part is ultimately a protector of not being seen as worthless, not good enough. So again, like you said, it's not what did you say? It's not your
value.
You said your mentality around the food. It's your mindset.
It's not your mindset of like, it's not if the Oreo is good or bad. It's your mindset of how you perceive yourself being good and bad.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. For doing that action.
Yeah. So there's two parts here, right? You have the physical aspect of reconnecting to yourself and the mental aspect of reconnecting with yourself. And yes, this is going to take a longer time, but I can tell you it's really freeing for the clients. We're running 2 clients on these protocols right now. It's freeing. They are like, wow. One of the clients said, I asked myself at the end of the night, what did I feel like eating? And throughout the day, I hadn't had as much fat. And I didn't realize this till afterwards. She's like, oh, some peanuts sound good. So she had some peanuts. And when she looked, she's like, oh, interesting. The day before, it was the day before the morning, like the day of
the leading up to.
Yeah. Thank you. She didn't have a lot of fat and her body just naturally craved those fats. I know. And she was like, that was really cool. And this is someone who has yo-yo dieted for her whole life, struggled with binge and restrict cycles. Like, we've run different protocols. And finally I go, look, I don't think a deficit is for you. And honestly, she moves. I didn't realize how much she was moving. And I've been working for this client for a while. And I finally was like, holy shit, you are moving way. It's kind of like Garrett said, like, you're moving way too much and we're not fueling you enough. And so she notices when she doesn't move as much, obviously she's not as hungry that day. So, but she's like, I'm also making sure that I'm checking myself that it's not I didn't move.
Yeah. Therefore I don't get food.
And that's also the second part is she already has the foundation around her mindset because she's worked the method. So now working the method, being aware of her inner voice, now we can focus on the outer, right? Or the physiological part of it because she's more connected to herself. Yeah. She listens to herself. She listens to how she thinks. She's able to be aware of, when that thinking is dictating her behavior.
Trust.
Right. Yeah. So building trust. And that is incredibly important.
From a therapy standpoint, if you don't trust yourself, is it hard to trust a partner?
Oh, 1,000%.
Okay.
Well, you depend on them to do the things for you that you don't trust yourself to do.
Huh.
Yeah. So if I don't trust myself to understand, like, express my emotions, I expect them to like mind read me and figure it out for me. Like, you should know.
Yeah.
So that's just like a stupid example,
but it's a common example.
Yeah. So when we don't trust ourselves, it usually comes from a family environment where like love and affection was very inconsistent, or obviously we were told like, you're being too much. I was thinking about this yesterday because I'm working on some new content. My mom used to be like, oh, just stop it, Christina. She did that to me recently. Just stop it, Christina. When I'm like, hey, I don't like that, and growing up as a little girl, just stop it. Like, don't have that emotion. Don't express yourself. So then I don't trust my emotion or what I'm thinking, because the person who is supposed to be validating and telling me I'm okay is saying you're not okay.
Yeah.
So then I turn to others to tell me if what I'm feeling, thinking, doing, what I should do next, the choice I make, I depend on others to tell me that.
So I could say, okay, so let's equate that to what we're talking about is let's take you, for example, because with your mom telling you that, I can see where someone is going to gravitate more towards like a diet specific, like a specific diet, right? Because it's very black and white. They're telling you this is what you need to do. I don't trust. Yeah. So now they keep you dependent when it's really stemming from somewhere else.
Right. Well, and there are so many layers of the onion, or as Dick Schwartz, who is the godfather of the IFS theory, says, it's not an onion, it's a fucking garlic clove. Because you have like
chunky pieces.
Well, you have like the whole clove, then you have all the little cloves.
Yeah.
Right. That if I grew up in that environment where my reality wasn't seen as good, or I wasn't seen as good, if I wasn't acting in a certain way, or I was dismissed, I then grow up into a society that says, well, if you look this way, you are good.
So
right. And then it's like,
and then here's how to solve your problem. Here's your emotion that you need. I have the emotion. Here it is.
Right. I have the restricted diet. Then my body says, oh, we're doing this. Okay. Well, I'm going to adapt to that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start really obsessing over food, because it almost becomes a part. If now I'm thinking about it, it's like the food obsession becomes a part, because if I just obsess over food, that means that, quote unquote, I'm going to be skinny, thin, and acceptable. And then I won't have to face my exiles that are in the dungeon, the things that we try to like push away, the not good enoughness, the worthlessness. But anytime I eat outside of that, that's the, all the bad stuff coming up. So that's interesting. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud. Okay. So,
well, I think it's important for people to hear that though. Like, this is how deep it can be with the food noise.
Right.
And they're just saying like, have you ever seen that meme where they slap the water tank that's coming out and they're like, food noise, and I'm like thinking like, internal family systems.
Yeah, exactly.
Internal family systems slap. Right. But like, why, why is it important that we have a perfect diet? I'm thinking of one client in particular of like, why is it so important that you're dedicated, like to show this dedication? It's because, and her response is because I want to make, I want to just make the progress. I'm invested in this program. And I'm like, trust me, I believe you're invested. Right. But like, what is this whole dedication, improving the dedication? And I'm like, that's perfectionism. And she's saying like, no, I was, what did she say? And I was like, nope, don't plot toast on this, because she said something that was contradictory of like, well, I did have this, so I feel like I didn't work out today, so I feel like I am practicing a little bit of flexibility. I was like, yeah, but yesterday you said I wasn't dedicated enough, I don't want to get on scale, and I don't even know how to log what I had because I feel really guilty about it, blah, blah, blah. Like that's noise in your head that is coming in and you're going, well, no, actually I'm not. And it's like, that's your liars telling you like, this isn't actually true. Right. Well, suppressing it.
Right. Well, and for her, I would, instead of asking her, what does this dedication bring? Say, what would happen if it didn't exist?
The dedication?
Yeah.
She thinks this goes back to, well, then I would just, go buck wild. I'm like, but we've already proven that you don't go buck wild.
Well, and then, so what I'm hearing is that you're either strict and rigid, or you lose control. What's your earliest memory of that in your life?
The earliest? Okay, that's what I need to ask her. The earliest, because I know there's some recent stuff, not recent, but more adulthood stuff that I know where it's stemming from. But I would say even earliest. No, I know actually now that I'm thinking. Okay.
Run with
Got
it. Run.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. Sorry. Back to this.
I think that's it.
Okay.
I think, food noise isn't a lack of control, right? It is literally just like your body adapts metabolically, it adapts mentally.
Well, I think food noise is so that's your definition. My definition is food noise is what your body is supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be telling you you're hungry.
Yeah, it's like, bitch, feed me.
Yeah.
But then you put all these labels on food because it's not just telling you you're hungry, right? It's telling you I'm hungry. Now give me that thing that's going to give me the food.
Right. But you did it bad.
Yeah. And now you're bad. Well, okay. Sorry. We're jumping back in. Let's not get things twisted. You have food noise.
Okay.
That's like obsession, right? But then food noise and your inner critic are like besties.
Yeah, they are.
And they're like fraternal twins, right? They look this, well, maybe they think and act the same, but they look different. I don't know. So I think those could they be two different things? I don't know. They could be the same thing, I guess.
I think so, because your internal critic could be talking about something else, like how your body looks, whereas food noise is specific to nutrition.
Yeah. Food critic.
But
I guess they just have it.
As you like to say, play in the same sandbox.
Yes, they do. Awesome. All right. Well, if you know anyone who is struggling with this, please share this podcast with them. I feel like we gave I think this was new insights that people aren't discussing because they don't get the opportunity to educate themselves through like clinical research and what people are seeing on the psychological side of things. They just hear the news, they read Healthline, and they think, okay, I know what I'm talking about. I, on the other hand, get access to these things. I feel very, very grateful for that I get access to these types of trainings that other like trainers would get access to. It's awesome.
For that.
So please share it. If you are like, okay, you've convinced me, I've got that. The Mindset Method program, whether that's our one-to-one or group coaching program, is designed to help you with this exact thing. I am working on a second portion of the program, which will be all focused on attuned eating, but you will have to go through the mindset method in some capacity, coaching capacity prior to doing that. So if you're interested in that, comment below. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment. If you're listening on Spotify, you can comment. And on Apple Podcasts, can you comment on Apple Podcasts?
Oh. I don't know. I don't use Apple.
Okay. Let me know if you guys are interested in that, because, I'm going to put a lot of time into this program.
Yeah.
And I don't want to waste
making a program takes a lot of time.
Yes.
Like for the Mindset of Mommies, that took me a lot of time, and even still refining.
Yes.
So
always refining.
It takes time.
Yeah. But if you are interested in coaching with us, I will also link the Clarity Call link below. You will actually now be getting a little survey, and it will ask you several questions. It will help you understand the type of relationship you have with exercise and food, and then which of our coaches will be the best coach for you. And then they'll have a Clarity Call link to set up some time to have a conversation about your needs. So that is in the show notes below. Other than that, we're going to leave you the same way we do every single time we say goodbye.
What you say in the mind,
you see in the mirror.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.